Hello everyone, welcome back. So this is my channel, formerly known as the Passport Christian, but I think I'd rather come to you all as myself. So yeah, just wanted to give you guys a little response video because I found this video and it's about a wealthy expat. He's gotten himself into some issues with women, abroad, marrying them and then divorcing them subsequently. And I think there's some lessons to be learned in this, particularly from a Christian perspective, where you really need to think about your relationship with God and put it first rather than just seeing things from a business mindset. And I can't really fault this guy. He's a young guy and he's got this business mindset. He's been grinding and working, and I get that. Like, we've all been there. But I just think he still has, you could, like, I'm not trying to read his mind, but you can see the way he approaches things by the way he tries to explain this. And I'll let you see what I mean here by playing the video. So let's get into that.
A lot of people have told me maybe you chose the wrong woman, maybe you should have checked for her red flags, maybe you should have had a better hiring process when it comes to your wife. But I think regardless of who you pick, obviously we all want to have a family. Maybe you don't, but I do, certainly.
So right away, you get kind of an idea of where he's coming from because he kind of smiles when he says hiring a woman to be your wife. And like, but he takes it back. He's like, he doesn't want to smile, but he's kind of serious about that. If you didn't pick up on that, like, he's trying to kind of joke, but then he kind of pulls back on it because this is actually, I think, how he views it. If you listen to the way he's talking, it's like it's the hiring process. It's like, yeah, everything is a business transaction. Even marrying your wife, choosing, a wife is like choosing a business partner, someone who can improve or enrich your life. And I just think that's the wrong way to view marriage in general. Like, as a man, we're meant to take responsibility, and at the same time, like, as it was demonstrated in Genesis, that woman was taken out of man, but they were still viewed as one unit, and this is reinforced later in Ephesians chapter 5 when the Bible talks about how the man is supposed to go out and become one with his wife. And in so doing, he leaves his parents, right? So this really is an issue of trust, even though he'll kind of dispute that point later in the video, but because I've watched this before, but it really is an issue of trust. And I think if you really want to get to know someone, you need to focus on that emotional side because it is important, whether you realize it or not. And if you just, like, even if you think, like, oh yeah, haha, we're hiring a woman, but if you really think of it that way, and you're trying to find ways to, like, protect yourself in case of accidents or accidents. Like, I'll show you later, he says something else about that.
And that's why I talk about Cook Islands trust, or having a trust so much, because yes, it's a high price point. You're going to pay maybe $40,000, $50,000 to set up a trust in the Cook Islands, the jurisdiction that I recommend. But then that trust could own the properties, could own the car, could own everything. And a trust in the Cook Islands can pretty much own any piece of real estate or anything anywhere in the world. It's going to take longer. It's going to be a bit harder to do it. You're not going to buy a car in 2 days. In some cases, you can do it, and if it's in your personal name, you can buy it in 1 or 2 days. If it's under a trust, it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks, but it's a small amount of time to then prepare for lifetime, essentially. And this is not about trust. It's not about trusting your wife. It's not about finding somebody that you trust. Your wife could always turn back and use the legal system against you. Things can go south. You might cheat on her. You might do anything stupid, whatever it is.
And there, and this brings up a good point because, like I said, he was going to refute my point about trust. And I think it is about trust, but not only trusting the woman, it's about trusting yourself. If you can't even trust yourself not to cheat, like he just said, like, what are you even doing? You need to trust yourself to really be able to take on the responsibility of becoming one with someone. And you know, in order to do that, you need to be a solid unit. You need, you know what I mean? You need to really have your crap together. And and I'm not trying to say that this guy doesn't. Like, he's giving a lot of solid advice, like putting your stuff into an LLC, not owning everything personally, and researching divorce law. Like, yeah, that could always be a good thing to do. The more you know, the better, right? So I don't want to discourage anyone from taking the advice that he's giving here, because a lot of it's good advice. But like I said, you can see just in the way he uses the language, like, he doesn't even trust himself not to cheat on this woman because I guess he's wealthy, right? And he has a lot of options. Like, that's fine. He probably is a lot more wealthy than me, but I'm, not that I'm doing too bad either, but I've been very careful about this because I know how important it is, and I've been a teacher. I've been a pretty compassionate guy, I would say. I'm always trying to think about other people and how they perceive things. So yeah, while he's giving some good advice here, you can kind of see that he's approaching everything with a business mindset as opposed to a teacher mindset or a relation mindset where he's trying to get on the same level with this person he's trying to spend the rest of his life with. And, like, yeah, that's what he says he wants, and then his actions are a little bit different. So you can have good intentions like this man, not to judge him. But then you don't really understand the way you're thinking is causing issues because you're going into a marriage with thinking that eventually this girl is going to take advantage of you in some way. And, like, maybe you've already placed yourself below her, and that's why you're doing this. That's why you're offering her this money and stuff for these things. But the way that you approach it, if you think you're above, like, if you think you're the catch in the relationship, let's say, you can treat everything like a transaction or like a business, in a business mindset or frame of mind, and your partner is going to catch up on that. Your partner is going to realize what you're doing. They're going to be like, oh yeah, maybe I could leverage some of this instead of the other way around, and then I could get more of what I want, right? So it just becomes this competition where we're both tugging and pulling to make this relationship work better for ourselves, right? And it's just such a selfish way to view things. It's not a biblical marriage. And, like, this guy's got a long way to go. I believe him when he says he's not bitter about this, and neither am I, because I've never been married, and I don't have a reason to be bitter, really. But, I've learned a lot of lessons. I guess you could say the easy way, because like I said, I made a lot of stupid mistakes and decisions in my life, but none of them after getting married. So, that's a good thing to keep in mind. You want to really know what you're doing and know yourself before you get into something like this, to a relationship like this. So let's go on a little further and see what he has to say.
Nobody cared because the property was in her name. So also careful about buying assets under your wife's name. You might do this because
Yeah, he mentioned this, like not having things under your name, but also not having things under her name, because when you move abroad, a lot of times you have to you just there's no way to own things or own property like you do in the like you could in the US. And that's why I've just stayed away from it basically. Um, you don't want to have anything like he says, like your visa or your property in her name so that she has leverage over you. And like really, like there's lots of ways they sometimes they give retired expats ways to protect their interests, but I mean really it just becomes a big competition. And I just have never been interested in looking into that kind of thing. Like, how do I set up, all these interests in a foreign country? I can retire. I think I can retire safely to another country without having my entire life there, and still having a life back here in the U.S. So this guy's kind of approached it from a different um, frame of reference, I guess, if you want to call it that. But let's skip to the end here. I think he makes another good point.
then other things is that I invested way too much in my ex-wife. If your wife is consistently asking you, oh, please buy me this, buy me that, buy me this luxurious thing, buy me this, buy me that, buy me this, buy me that, that then gets you into a loop of buying things for her. And that's how she got me to buy property in her name at the end. So you want to be aware of this. I'm not hating women. I'm not saying you shouldn't invest into a woman, but the more you invest, the more she expects more investment and more and more and more. So buy me the Birkin and then buy.
Yeah, I think that's natural, and this kind of betrays his mindset as well. The investment, into a woman, like she's an investment, kind of like an asset that you have that you can own. And I'm not saying like like feminism and whatnot. Like he's just treating it from that mindset, and you can kind of tell by the way he talks. Um,
Buy me a car and then buy me some real estate and then buy me multiple pieces of real estate and then it just keeps.
like it ratchets up, right? Like her interest ratchets up as you begin to approach as you get into this marriage in a business mindset. And like I said, you could either have a business mindset and approach this like a transaction, like he's doing here, where it's just ratcheting up, and she's like, oh, I wonder how much more I can get if he's just giving me money for being me, right? But if you view things more from more of a teacher mindset, and like I've been a teacher, so it's just what are you giving this money for? Like, you don't want to not financially support your wife, but why? Not it can't just be because she's attractive or because some nebulous thing like, oh, I love you, so here's money. You don't want to attach love to money and like have that's not what you're tying, the investment to, because those don't go well together. Love and money have really no relationship to each other. So really you want to base that on something tangible, like at first it can be something that she does for you, and like, yeah, I want to help you out because I feel like you're really working on this. And like, that's another thing, because if you just give somebody a reward for who they are, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm special, I can get things for who I am, and I don't need to work for it, right? But if you approach it from a teacher mindset, you're exchanging, and like that's like, even there, that's kind of a business mindset word to use. You're exchanging money for effort. But really, you want to be genuinely focused on the effort and on her as a person rather than the exchange that's occurring there. But you can help your wife with financial problems or whatever she's dealing with, as long as you feel comfortable and you know her that well. And like I said, like, that's up to you, obviously. So you got to determine how the level of comfort you have, how well you can verify these things, and like just know that she's for real, you know? And not only that, but then also attach it to something meaningful like effort on her part so that she can see that, it's something that you both have to work for, you know? And above it all is not just the how do I put it, like the level of engagement from one partner to the other, like who's higher, who's lower, but rather focusing on what you think is right in the eyes of God. And that is the most important thing. You have to do what's right. And, I just think it's kind of a shame that men approach things this way, and it needs to be responded to. And like I said, I'm not attacking this man or anybody who kind of approaches women in that way. But like, you want to, even if you're a young guy, say you've been studying business and you've been succeeding, like, but you haven't really focused on the relational aspect of an actual relationship. Like, how do you get to know this person and start understanding them and really developing feelings for them rather than just getting what you want for what they have to offer, So it's good to be careful, like he's saying, but at the same time, if you get into a war with a woman, like, it's going to end badly no matter what. So you just, it's really better to like become friends with the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life rather than this competitor. That's not what men want. Don't want a competitor as a wife. So that's one of the things about modern relationships in America, et cetera, et cetera. Like, yeah, it's all about the competition. It's all about measuring up against one another. And how do you measure up versus how does she measure up? What does she bring to the table? It's all transactional. It's all competition. It's all how much money you make and what versus what she makes. And like, that's not what relationships are about. So even if you're not a Christian, like, I urge you to consider this, like, having it based on something that's above you, because if life is all about you, if there's no other meaning in your life besides what you can do to improve your lot in life, then it's going to end badly. There's no two ways about it. Like, you can't just be interested in yourself and have it work out, if that makes sense. It's too selfish. So it ends up working against you. And that's really all I wanted to say about this, because I think it's really important that we strive to better ourselves, not only in our eyes, but in the eyes of God. So, like I said, keep striving out there, and like, take his advice with a grain of salt, but also take it, and the salt makes it better sometimes. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening, you guys, and hope you learned something today. See you next time.